All right. Good evening, everybody. It's Friday. David Paul with you here, KHOU 11 Weather Center, after a busy week tracking Bertha. At one point yesterday, I was calling it Beryl. All for like an hour, I called it Beryl. Thanks for the comments. Bertha has now left us, and we're entering a dry spell here in Houston, Southeast Texas, and it looks quiet in the tropics for the time being. So here's where we stand. We've had Arthur, we've had Bertha. If we get to 9 named storms, which is what the updated forecast storm count from Colorado State University is, that'll take us all the way to Isaias. If we get to 14, which is a normal season, that'll get us all the way to Nana. So we got a few to go. I wonder what Cristobal and Dolly will be, if we have them. So far, the script has been followed quite nicely. Early season storms, May, June, July. I say May because every other year we get a storm in May. So June, July, if we're going to get development, it happens here. And Arthur was a remnant storm that came across Central America, did not develop until it got back out over the middle Texas coast, then came back in, gave Houston, Galveston a direct hit. And so developed in the yellow area where a statistic we'd expected to for a June storm, and then our July storm, Bertha, developed here, came along and gave us another direct hit. So 2 storms, weak tropical storms, minimal tropical storms, have both crossed the same point on planet Earth right here in Houston, Galveston. That is unusual. Now that we're going to get into the end of July, August, September, really August, September, the whole thing opens up. Statistically, we start seeing development more common in the Carib, and especially we begin to see the main development region of the Atlantic open up for business. So that's where we're headed as we head into August and September, especially past August 15th. Did I put this in here? August 15th, Dr. William Gray, who's no longer with us, but who pioneered the program at Colorado State University, he would ring a bell on August the 15th because he truly believed, he was looking at the stats, and he realized that up until August 15th, really not much usually happens. But once you get to August 15th until really the second half of October, that's when you get all the activity. So August 15th is basically right here, so right in here to the middle part of October. That's where I think it's something like 85 to 90% of the named storms happen in that part of the season. Here we are on July 24th, and we're in the time of year when activity can get going. But look at how right there, August 15th, it just ramps up. Statistically, that's when we start seeing a lot more activity on the board. So we're not there yet, but we're getting close, 24th of July. So we're 20 days away from that? Something like that. I do want to talk about the El Nino and something I noticed and I wanted to share with you. This is interesting. So, okay, sea surface temperature anomaly. So not temperature, but how much above or below normal for this time of the year the sea surface temps are. They're in general above normal in the Atlantic Basin in this zone, but they're cooler than last year. You look over into the equatorial Pacific, the El Nino, La Nina region, and here's your El Nino, and it has continued to expand in size. The unusual warming, which marks an El Nino, equatorial Pacific. They come out with an ENSO update every couple of weeks, and so they came out with one 4 days ago on the 20th, and basically just temperatures, everything just continues a steady rise across the equatorial Pacific and the El Nino regions. There are technically 4 of them. So everything's warming, everything's headed toward potentially a record strength El Nino. But something that I noticed today, and then I went and looked, and sure enough, it is analog, is what's happening here off the coast of the Baja. See the warming here? This has been warming and warming right along with the equatorial Pacific. And we've seen this before in an El Nino. In fact, we saw it in the strongest El Nino that we've ever recorded, which is this example right here. This is the 97-98 El Nino, and there's what we looked at in the El Nino region, but look right here. See, they had the warming right there. So for whatever reason, whether that had something to do with it or not, but that spot getting unusually warm, what we're seeing with this one as well, coincided with the strongest El Nino we've ever recorded. It looks like it's happening again with this El Nino that's forecast to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest. And again, this year, 97-98, the winter just absolutely dumped snow in the Sierras and the Rockies and the Mountain West. As you may know, Lake Powell, Lake Mead, especially Lake Powell, is way down, so they're hoping for a heavy snow. I happen to have family in Glenwood Springs. I happened to be there a couple of weeks ago, and they were all talking about the drought and how they need rain. Some of them had just visited Hoover Dam to just see for themselves, and they were able to access places, Hoover Dam, where you haven't been able to get since they built the place because the water level's been high. So they're all hoping for winter snow. They were very interested to hear what my thoughts on the possibility of a heavy snow winter season for the mountains. So that's another player in there. And as we mentioned, it can reduce storm count, the El Nino in the Atlantic, which is why we do track it. We look at what's going on out here right now. This is actually interesting. Gulf's quiet, West Carib, and you can see the counterclockwise rotation? What's going on here? So this is an area of low pressure. This is not at the surface. This is up at 40,000 feet. This is what's called, see the low spinning right here? This is a tropical upper tropospheric trough, a tut low. Literally we give them a nickname, T-U-T-T. It's a tut low. So these are interesting because they can be rainmakers, especially if they get over Texas and you get the heat of the afternoon. They'll cause widespread rain and thunder showers, diurnal. You get some heat and it makes the atmosphere very unstable. And that's what it's doing here in the lee of that trough, that tut low. It's producing widespread rain and thunder showers over Central America that float out into the Carib. But again, this is an upper level low. Tropical systems are surface-based systems. So these that are way up at 40,000 feet, they don't work their way down. They stay up there and they scoot along with the upper level flow. So that's what's going on here. I just found it very interesting. Every now and then we'll get a tut low over Texas and it will cause beautiful thunderstorm activity. I think it's beautiful. It'll cause beautiful cumulus towers to build late morning, and you get these thunderstorms, and it'll all end in the afternoon, and then you'll do it all over again the next day. That's tut low. I also found this interesting. Look at the shear, look at the flow. Again, we're up here at the top of the atmosphere, 40,000 feet. Look at this gigantic area of shear, west to east, across the entire Carib and even into the main development region of the Atlantic. So very hostile environment for any type of development. If a tropical wave were to come into this, it would be difficult for it to develop. And those are a couple of reasons why no development is expected for the next 7 days. That's what the National Hurricane Center says. We continue to take everything one day at a time. And on that note, let's do what we do. Look at the American and the Euro. Again, we're looking at 1010 millibars or below, so we're only looking for low pressure of significance. You can see system out here in the Pacific. We're looking for something like that where the isobars are stacking up to form out here. That would be something that would perk our ears up when we'd be concerned. So here's where we stand now. Everything quiet as a mouse. We go into Saturday, Sunday. There's your hurricane in the Pacific Monday, but nothing in the region that we watch. Mid-latitude lows forecast to work their way across the North Atlantic. Nothing tropical there. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, July 30th. That is part of the tropical gyre, not a tropical system forming near Panama. The rest of the area quiet as a mouse. There's your Pacific hurricane. Another mid-latitude low working its way off New York. Thursday, Friday, we go into August 1st, August 2nd. We're going to go out 10 days. Monday, August 3rd. Again, That's the tropical gyre, not a tropical entity. Quiet as a mouse. So models agree 10 days out that we stay quiet. We'll continue to take it one day at a time. That's the tropical update after what's been a busy week with Bertha. And our next live broadcast is KHOU 11 News at 10 o'clock. We will see you then.